Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, May 9th, 2024. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. Got a great show for you today. All the shows are great, in my opinion. But the Dean, Bill Kurelic, and the Grand Poobah, Mark Porter, are here. We're going to get rolling. Lots of Cruton talk today. If you have any questions and you are a live viewer on the Tube or the Twitter or any other social media platform I'm unaware of, get your questions in now, and we will do our best to knock them out before the end of the show. But first, are you hungry? Are you busy? If you're hungry and busy, let me explain to you something called Factor Meals. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/Bucknuts50 and then use the code Bucknuts50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code Bucknuts50 at factormeals.com/50. Hustle while your subscription is still active. Speaking of active, look at these fine folks. Active as heck. And good to see my guys here. All right. Bill and I were talking before the show about recruiting. Shocker. And I was mentioning that, boy, it must be nice for Ohio State to be able to send out its assistant coach in Chip Kelly and walk into the room of a quarterback or living room of a quarterback with Chip Kelly has some rock star vibes. There aren't many assistant coaches you can send out who, when they walk into the quarterback's room, they are making waves. We used to talk about this ad nauseum about how Urban was literally one of the few rock star recruiters out there. Not saying we have that. But, Bill, could you let us know what's going on and then possibly bring us up to speed on who Chip has actually gone to see, what he's doing out there? Everyone wants to hear about Chip.
Well, you talk about being a rock star, Chip Kelly and all, and he's known across the country, obviously, with all the success he's had. But, where better for him to recruit than the West Coast, where he's had success at Oregon. Of course, he was at UCLA. So that even amplifies things. And where do you think Chip Kelly has been this week? On the West Coast, back to his old stomping ground, so to speak, and seeing some big-time talent. Tuesday, I believe it was Tuesday, I'm virtually certain. Tuesday, he was in California to see one of the country's elite 2026 quarterbacks, Brady Spigel from, as I said, California. And that went very well. Brady will be in Columbus in June. He hasn't picked out the exact date yet, but it'll be probably the 3rd week of June, and he will probably be on a multi-day visit to Ohio State with his family. So that obviously went well. Yesterday was a really big day for Chip Kelly. He was one of the Buckeye coaches seeing running back Jordan Davison. And if you see Jordan Davison, since Jordan's at Santa Ana Mater Dei High School, you're going to see Ohio State commitment. Chris Henry Jr., who's one of the best, probably one of the top 1 or 2 players in the class of 2026 for the entire country. And, of course, there's a host of others at Mater Dei High School. They are loaded. So Chip Kelly was there, I'm sure, making waves, so to speak, with a lot of top prospects besides just Jordan Davison. And as I mentioned, Chris Henry Jr. Also, he didn't stop there on Wednesday. He was at a showcase where he saw a couple of very significant prospects. Cameron Broussard, he is a safety in the transfer portal right now from Sacramento State College. He is originally from Folsom High School, and that's where Chip Kelly was. He was there to see Broussard, as I mentioned, the safety, who is going to make an official visit to Ohio State this coming weekend. And then he was also there to see another of the country's top quarterback prospects, Ryder Lyons, one of 2026 quarterback again. So it was a big day on Wednesday for Chip Kelly.
Mark, I've been told that recruiting is only NIL these days. Do you think having Chip Kelly walk in there with an Ohio State logo on still has impact, or it's just a matter of Chip sliding the paper across the table with the offer?
I think Chip Kelly still has an impact. I think the NIL has an impact on the top blue chip prospects. I remember months ago, Bill saying there's 5 stars and then there's 5 stars. Those guys at the top are the ones drawing the big NIL. But as you get to the middle and, lower end of the class, and that's no disrespect to any class, not everyone's drawing the NIL. And a lot of guys are going there for opportunity and the opportunity to go to the NFL. And guys like Chip Kelly are a strong symbol that represent, here's your pathway to the NFL as with me as your coach and your pathway to development. When he starts, the reason he's a rock star is when he starts telling stories in your living room and he takes you back to days in the NFL and all these places. And he starts telling you about Marcus Mariota when he was like 17 years old and how he developed him. There's a lot of guys that, will, I guess, gravitate towards that. So that rock star stuff, Laurinaitis did it to me when I saw him. I was like, whoa. When I saw Beanie Wells, I kind of went, whoa. There's certain guys, when you see him, you as a fan of football and just as a guy in general, like, oh, I remember seeing him on TV for years and boom, he's in front of your face. And now he's, you know what it's like when someone like a girl likes you and she's really nice to you. When these coaches are recruiting you and these guys are like their best representatives and they're really nice to you, it is such a flattering feeling to have a conversation like that with one of your idols. So I think that's the idea you're trying to present to the fans and the players.
I'll tell you what it's like. It's like when you're pledging a fraternity and all these older dudes are nice to you and telling you what's going to be great. And you get in there for 10 days and they all turn on your ass. And it's the hardest thing you've ever been through. That's college football, ladies and gentlemen. Once they get you in the doors and let you get the Mick get a hold of you, your parents ain't walking through that door anymore. All right, William. Do you think, before we move off Chip Kelly, this is going to come up, so I'll ask. Do you think they've picked out we know their quarterback for 2025 is locked and loaded? The great Tavian St. Clair. We hope he'll be great, at least in college. Do you think they've locked down who they want in 2026, or are we still in the, information acquisition phase?
I think they're still in the evaluation phase. But having said that, I'm sure, as Chip Kelly goes and sees these guys, he's making his notes, checklist, etc. And he's got a pretty good idea of, well, this guy is here, this guy is here, and so forth. But I think that they're going to go through the entire spring here, all the evaluation period. He hasn't seen everyone yet. He's seen a lot of them so far, including Brandon Faison, or I should say Faison Brandon from North Carolina, who is, I believe, in our rankings, the number 1 2026 quarterback in the country. And Faison Brandon is a great prospect. If you haven't watched his videotape, it is worth watching. Those of you out there that would like to see Ohio State have a quarterback that can both run and pass, watch his tape. He can do both. So I'm sure they've got Chip Kelly's got a pretty good idea, but he'll finish off his evaluation period, and then they'll meet as a staff. He'll talk with Ryan Day, and they'll come up with their what will be their current list at that time in order.
And his name is Faison Brandon. It's not Brandon Faison. I searched it incorrectly, assuming that it was just listed wrong. It's Faison Brandon.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. We're going to get Mark rolling here. Mark has been on the road all week.
We could share that video right now of him if you guys want to take a peek at it. Yeah, let's. That isn't that what I'm here for? I'd much rather be sitting here and doing this video than being on that road for a few days.
Mark, I forgot some of your skills because you were in your car or on the field. I forgot about your video prowess. So Faison Brandon, you're seeing him now. Mark, take us through your initial impression.
Yeah, so I like doing these raw evaluations when I've never seen a prospect before, and I'm sure there's thousands of fans watching this. That first throw, I'd call that your garden variety, 50-50 ball. There you see him put a little arm into it and stretch out a guy. I think that might have been about a 45-yard throw. So as I evaluate, I'm trying to check certain boxes here as we watch these plays. The arm strength, the mobility. I won't know about the repeated accuracy until I watch this tape. And then if we dig into a game film or go see him live or you watch him at a camp, you kind of look for that consistency. Of course, the highlight film is always going to show you, it's going to make him look very consistent. I like the shot down there, layer over the linebackers, look more like a touch throw there. I want to see him take off and scramble, and right on cue, here we go. I think this is the part where Bill was referring to that. Yeah,
I believe that's called taking off, Mark.
Yeah, the extra dimension with the feet, you check that box, and then there's your shot down the hole. The flat rope that didn't have, much rainbow to it. And you can see that he has an arm there. His delivery and his footwork look pretty fluid. That was a pretty quick motion and a pretty quick delivery there. So you like what that is. And I mean, this may get boring to some of the guys, but we're here to nerd out on a kid. And there's another shot down the middle. You like those seam shots. So you see the arm strength and most coaches say in 10 plays, I can tell if we have something. I would check the 10-play box. There's the slant. Yeah, that was a nice shot there. So I think we get the picture of who he is and how he would compare to other quarterbacks. As I watch another play, I'm trying to give you a comp. He looks like he's pretty long, and he looks like maybe a shorter version of Tavian St. Clair.
But he's 6'3.5", 6'4".
Yeah.
Similar arm motion, too. It's more of a whip than kind of your, like Aaron Rodgers, bring it back over your ear kind of thing.
I agree. I see the whip, and it's, maybe not your classical motion. You can see it's a quicker delivery.
So yeah, somebody asked about Nate Bernard, too. I saw if Chip Kelly has done evaluation. Yeah, he was there. On one day earlier this spring, he went around Central Ohio. He saw Tavian St. Clair. It was actually the first time that Chip Kelly has seen, even though Tavian has been committed to Ohio State since the summertime, it's the first time Chip Kelly had actually seen Tavian St. Clair throw in person. So he wanted to get out and do that. He saw Tavian St. Clair. He also saw Nate Bernard, 2026 quarterback that someone asked about. So he's seen him and done his evaluation. And he saw Levi Davis from Old Tangy Orange all on the same day.
Do you get a vibe on those guys, Bill? Do you think Nathan? I mean, we have certain people on this chat who, when I start this thing up every day, it's already in there. Will they offer Cedric Works and Nathan Bernard? And you know who you are. Give me your vibe.
Well, again, when you look at the quarterbacks that Ohio State has offered, and there's a bunch of them out there, it's not going to be easy for Nate Bernard because you've got Faison, of course. Faison Brandon, who is the number one quarterback in the entire country. And you go right down that list, and they're all top 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks in the country. So it's not out of the question that they go with those guys and get one of those guys. But I think in the case of Nate Bernard, he's going to probably need to camp at Ohio State to get that offer, would be my feel right now.
That's the vibe for Bernard. That warm up with Chip was kind of the prelude to it. But I think this summer you're going to see some of these guys at Ohio State camp, and we're going to have something fun to watch when they go into that indoor facility and it's throw for throw, and you're watching the battle actually happen. I think I'm leaning toward that scenario.
Also, let's keep in mind you got to take the national temperature because, excuse me, don't forget we're competing against other schools for these guys. And Ohio State always quarterback heavy and quarterback dominant, but they're even more than that now with Chip Kelly in the mix, with the 5 quarterbacks in there of such ilk, with Tavian St. Clair, signed up to come. They have become the glamorous spot to go to right now. I mean, Alabama's 5-star guy left and came where? Here. So Yeah, we're in good shape there. There's no question. I tell you what, I'm going to read the next ad, and then we will just go deep on all your recruiting questions. And Mark will also bring us up to speed on what he saw this week, Mark. So if you want to get that ready while I saw some steaks, I think you might have even just told me about it. All right. Nothing says summer like the taste of a juicy, tender bit. Excuse you. I'm going to start again for my dog. Nothing says summer like the taste of a juicy, tender burger grilled to perfection. And nobody does burger perfection quite like Omaha Steaks. Right now, you can taste burger perfection for yourself with the Burger Perfection Flight. This exclusive package includes 20 of their mouth-watering steak burgers, 4 each. Ground filet mignon burgers, New York strip burgers, ribeye burgers, brisket burgers, and sirloin burgers. You'll get all of this deliciousness for just $79.99. That's 20 beefy, juicy steak burgers for just $79.99. Go to omahasteaks.com and order today. Omaha Steaks Pure Ground Burgers deliver an explosive combination of tenderness, juiciness, and unmatched quality. And right now, you can experience the Burger Perfection Flight for just $79.99 when you go to omahasteaks.com. Every purchase is backed by their unconditional money-back guarantee. All right. Okay, now I was going to preface everyone with some issues here. I am flying solo this week, and my dog is not psyched, and he's right here. So if you hear someone talking, or maybe even leaning in, because I can reach him, I apologize in advance. Mark, you have been on the road. You have seen the great state of Ohio. You could probably do a review of our highways and rest stops that no one would really want to sit through. But bring us up to speed. I think it's over. Every time I think it's over, you send me another list of where you're going, and I think to myself, man, I'm glad I'm not Mark. But take us up to speed. You've done a Herculean trip through the state, and really just an impressive overall organization. Whoever set all that up, kudos. But bring us up to speed.
Yeah, I'm on my college, high school tour of showcases around Ohio, and it's taken me. We're in the second week of it, and to my chagrin, there's one more week next week.
Oh,
there's some big schools on the list next week. The Toledo area, we'll be able to see, Toledo Central Catholic, Whitmer, St. John's, Avon Lake, North Ridgeville. Next week is St. Ed's and Akron Hoban, and some of the bigger schools like that, Taft, Middletown, Withrow. There's some heavy hitters coming up next week. So I still have many rest stops to review and $65 hotels to stay in and bed bugs to defumigate. And I have learned some lessons. We will be staying at some Hiltons the next couple of weeks. That's for sure. Nice. You want me to kind of tell you what I've seen on the road. And as soon as you said that, my brain started melting and coming out the side of my ear. I have a stack of sheets here. If you can see that. This is just the stack from this week. We're at my desk today, and this is the first time I've really been at my desk. I go through these sheets and start looking at my notes and exactly what you want, pulling out the players that are the next guy. And there's a couple that came to my mind, and I don't want to screw them up here. And there are places that, you wouldn't naturally think of it. Thomas Worthington has a quarterback, Gray Kegley. He put on a show. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. And he was only a freshman starter last year. So class of 2027, Bill, we're out ahead of the curve. You better get down to Thomas Worthington next year. This kid can throw the ball. He's big and strong. He's fast. So check him off. And then last night at Streetsboro.
I was in Worthington last night, as a matter of fact.
Okay, yep. Cooper Richmond was an offensive lineman at Streetsboro. He had to be 6'5 plus. He was running around as well as any lineman I've seen on this tour. And there's not much fanfare or hype around this kid yet. And another young player, 2026. He'll be a guy that I definitely go see again this year. And I can guarantee guys like this are going to go to that Ohio State camp this summer, and you're going to see their names go through the message board routine, like no other. Austintown Fitch had Braden Bryant there. He set the school record in the 60-yard dash. Boy, he's 6'1", on his way to 6'2". Kentucky offered. After the MAC saw him that day, they pretty much all offered. As a freshman, 2027, name to know, the guy that we'll be talking about again. And as he gets to an Ohio State camp, okay, Yes, sir.
Are you saying he broke the school record in the 60 as a freshman at 6'1"?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and
something.
a lot of these local kids here, I've had the pleasure of watching play youth sports, whether it's basketball or flag football. And Braden Bryant was a youth sports legend in this area. I mean, he put a lot of rings on a lot of fingers, a lot of regional championships, national championships. I've been waiting for the day for him to pop up. And he had a running mate on his team, Jaden Phillips from Hickory over in Pennsylvania, who was a freshman All-American over there in PA. And I'm kind of waiting for his name to pop up. Even though I'm not a PA guy, he's just over the border. And, like I said, youth sports has infected me because of my own children. So
Understood.
These classes coming up, I'm going to have a lot of intimate knowledge on players.
Very good stuff. And, of course, Mark will have – the amount of stuff we'll have when this is all done, I think Mark's going to have to short rehab.
We're going to treat the Bucknuts to a lot of intimate video and a lot of stuff that no one else is seeing. And, I hope in the background of the video you can see all the college coaches that are there watching these kids. It's an impressive feat. I think there were 35 schools at some of these places, 50 coaches, because a lot of guys are bringing 2 people, from the staff, but very impressive.
It'll also be fun as the videos go on. You can see Mark's temples gray, and each video that comes, he gets a little older because he gets a little more stressed out. That's a lot of sheets. All right, let's tackle these questions. And as each one comes up, we will kind of vacillate between experts. Okay. I'm not going to ask some of the general ones because there's some specific ones, but lo and behold, people want more big offensive linemen. You're not alone.
This weekend in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay, let's do that, Bill. Start with that. Tell us, not the same quite star-studded weekend, at least from name value, but there will be some guys here this weekend. Let's go over that, and then hopefully that'll knock out some questions, and then we'll go from there.
Well, last weekend was an incredible weekend for Ohio State with not in terms of quantity, but quality. I mean, you had 4 guys at Ohio State last weekend, led by David Sanders Jr., that you don't get a whole lot better than that. So I don't think it'd be realistic to say that Ohio State is going to quite match that this weekend, but it's still going to be a big weekend, a good weekend. At least 4, and talk about offensive linemen, 2 offensive linemen the Buckeyes have offered, but at least 4 total prospects. And all 4 have been offered a scholarship already by Ohio State. Will be in Columbus visiting the Buckeyes. You got Jackson Lloyd, the 2025 offensive tackle from Carmel, California. I was talking to him a little bit last night, and he seems pretty excited about getting out here to visit Ohio State. He's a 6'7", 290-pound offensive lineman. He's got a list of scholarship offers that includes Ohio State, USC, Washington, UCLA, Cal, Alabama, Florida, Oregon, Auburn. Pretty good offer list. Tennessee, Penn State, Michigan.
I'm waiting for the G word.
Don't believe Georgia has. I don't believe, but nonetheless, pretty impressive offer list. So Jackson Lloyd will be here. Andrew Stargell is an offensive lineman from Georgia that is going to make the trip up to Ohio State this weekend for a 2-day visit with his family. He'll be here May 10th and May 11th. And he already said he's 100% sure he's coming back for an official visit, he says. So that's another name certainly to keep in mind. I mentioned earlier in the show, Cameron Broussard from the West Coast, from Folsom, California, Sacramento State, transfer portal safety, and they want a safety in this class. They want a transfer portal safety. He'll be making his official visit. Right now, he's going to go to one of 3 schools. He's going to stay on the West Coast and go to Washington, or come out to the Midwest and go to Ohio State or Michigan. He's hitting both schools this weekend, Ohio State and Michigan, on this Midwest weekend trip for official visits. And then Jaden Magnum, really talented safety in the transfer portal from Michigan State. He is making his Ohio State official visit this weekend. So that's the preview, a little preview right now of what we have. And, maybe before the end of the day here, I come up with another name or 2 that's visiting Ohio State. But it is a significant visit weekend for the Buckeyes.
the safety stuff is really interesting just because two guys visiting with Michigan and Ohio State, both, really wanting a safety. I think some people feel like Michigan has more to offer because they have a starting spot to offer out there, but that's something the dean will be on top of. All right, we're going to go rapid fire here. Let's try and answer these questions as quickly as possible. Chad Stryker. What's the scoop with the offer to Byron Lewis out of Florida, running back? I can't see him coming in as part of a 3 running back class. Of course, the dean has crystal balled Jordan Davison from Mater Dei. We discussed him earlier. The guys are out there seeing him yesterday. And Bo Jackson from Cleveland is, you have him crystal balled here. The theory is 2 backs in a class. Do you buy this? Byron Lewis would not join to be the 3rd. Bill?
I would be surprised if he went and became the 3rd in this class, but there's no 100% guarantee right now that Jordan Davison is going to sign with Ohio State and or Bo Jackson. And you never know. Maybe he would say, I'll be part of a 3 running back class. I think Ohio State, I will be a bit surprised if they don't get 2 running backs in this class. Do they need 3? They could use 3, like we've talked about before. Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins go to the NFL after this season. That would leave them with 2 scholarship running backs on the roster. You want to have 5 or 6. So it's not out of the question. There could be 3 in the class. Not predicting it right now, but not out of the question. And Byron Lewis has been offered a scholarship by Ohio State long ago. He was at Ohio State's camp last summer. He's been to Ohio State multiple times. He's always had Ohio State as one of his top choices.
One of the guys Mark has done recently on his Buckeye in the Sky was Vernell Brown, the 3rd, I believe, or Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson. It's amazing how we go look at these guys. And there have been times I've looked at him like, that's Garrett Wilson. That is. He's just snuck into the stadium and done it again. We say that to say that Heartline has a mold. William. What's the scenario if we, God forbid, miss out on both Corey Moore? I've been told that's what I'm supposed to call him. Stacorian Moore out of Duncanville in Texas, I believe, and Jamie French out of Mandarin, Jacksonville area, I believe, in Florida. I think we'll get them both just because I trust in Heartline more than I trust in almost anything. But Vernell Brown could be also in the mix. Bill, bring us up to speed. And then, Mark, if you can let us know what you thought of Vernell Brown after that, that'd be great.
Vernell Brown is a super talented kid. And I would could be in the mix. I would go a step farther than that. I would say that if I was going to rank those 3 players in order, Vernell Brown, Jamie French, and Corey Moore as most likely to end up at Ohio State, I'd have Vernell Brown on the top and I'm not, again, don't take me wrong. I'm not saying he's the best. They're all great. I'm saying as the most likely of the 3 to end up at Ohio State, Vernell Brown would be my top guy on that list right now. So what's the plan if they miss on Moore and French? Well, you get Brown and they want him. And again, I think he's the most likely right now. I think all 3 of them could pick Ohio State. I don't think that's out of the question, but I think Vernell Brown is the most likely. And then you've got a host of others that are possibilities. In fact, Ohio State, Brian Hartline is just seeing Dalen McCutcheon. So that's a name not to forget. He is a teammate of a current Buckeye that was down in Texas that Ohio State landed in the 2024 class. So, there's an in right there. And there's a number of others that Ohio State certainly still has a shot at, could land, et cetera. But, if Brian Hartline's recruiting wide receivers, the Buckeyes are in good shape.
Marcus.
And they already have Desi Jones, by the way, as a commitment.
Of course, out of Jersey.
Philip Bell, I should mention, too. He's another guy that absolutely could end up. Philip Bell, in my opinion, is going to end up at either Ohio State or USC. I don't want to predict which one right now, but I feel pretty comfortable saying that I think the chances are great that Philip Bell ends up at one of those 2 schools, USC or Ohio State.
I'm going to summarize Bill's recent comments. Ohio State's good at recruiting wide receivers. Regardless of what happens and who it is, they're going to be pros. All right. Here's one of them. Take it, Mark.
This first play, Vernell Brown, he to me looks a little smaller than that Olave Garrett Wilson thing. Right here, I'm looking for speed to come over the top, and he chooses to beat it with a move or some jitter and some explosion there. So he's a different type. He looks like more of a jitterbug, smallish, looks like the bubble screens and punt returns might be his specialty. I just don't see the length of those other guys. The speed here, we're looking for a play where he can actually run away from some guys, and right on cue, you see him have the burst there. But I think this is a shorter version of the Heartline mold we've been, talking about. Will he go? I looked at his height. He looks like he's around 170 pounds, so he's a little light. He could use that redshirt year maybe to bulk up and maybe add some power to him. I don't know why this comparison is popping into my head, but it's like a Santana Moss or a Terry McLaurin type, or maybe even Curtis Samuel here. You see a little more jitterbug, and I think the jitterbug comparison is Olave and Garrett Wilson had a more of a darty straight line thing, and they could make moves, but I think this kid's a stop and start on a dime kid here. But you saw the long speed on 2 plays. Definitely has the long speed. We'll check out maybe 1 or 2 more plays here. Another deep post. Like the way you want to see more catches like that to check the hands box and, put him in the reliable receiver type. Coming out of the gates there off the blocks, he looked like he had a nice burst there. And as I asked for more hands plays, there's your high point ability. Again, I mean, I can't argue with what Brian Hartline's seeing on tape and what he's sending us to watch because, I'm sure if we watch more, we become more oohs and ahs. But great-looking guy off the hoof.
I love guys who can go up, high point the ball. He landed on his feet, spun and ran into the end zone. Most guys, they get the ball and they drop their feet out, land on their shoulder pad or something. The guys who can do that, that's that next layer of those trapeze artist guys. Anyway, all right.
By the way, I mentioned Dalen McCutcheon. Brian Hartline was there at his practice. He was attending his practice yesterday, matter of fact.
All right. Let me get Mika wants to know, could we offer Kentrell Reinhardt would be a great third back? You guys thoughts?
Yeah, he's a running back. Yeah, he's a running back out of Columbus. Bishop Reedy has an outstanding highlight tape. He really put together a big time season. He was a finalist, I want to say, for Mr. Football. I know there was a lot of internet hype for him to be the Mr. Football candidate. In this day and age of Ohio State and taking a second or third guy to position, this is the type of guy that you would take. Maybe more of a developmental guy that. You're not, there's a hometown guy and his love for the game would, make him be a guy that would stick on your roster. If they are going to take a third guy, which I know Bill's already talked about, not a bad candidate. And I'm actually a fan of Reinhardt. I think he, has a nice offer list. And again, this is like a broken record. Get to camp this summer, maybe show that 40 time or show what you're going to do against bigger competition. There might have been a knock on some of his competition, maybe put up some numbers in a few games that were a little inflated, but overall he did what he was supposed to do against the competition he faced.
All right, Mark, I'm going to give you the chance to finish off the show here with 2 questions. The Dean's just going to sit and watch. I want you, this is the first one. And then what is more valuable to you? It's from Mike Schaefer, Mark, what is more valuable to you? Camp setting performance or game performance? Let's do the Cliff Notes version. God knows you could probably talk about this until you have to go to the next camp.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good thing for saying Cliff Notes. I just talked to some college coaches about this the other day, and it's the T-shirt Olympics. It's linemen doing pass rush drills, and they're ripping each other's T-shirts off, and you can never get a true evaluation like that. It's a desperate evaluation if you are trying to look at a guy in a 7-on-7. And I just talked to a quarterback yesterday that was really excited about the 7-on-7s, and I'm going to be seen by coaches. And I was like, let me say you're going to be more developed by that. And the development you get should show up on your game tape. And, we check these kids in these combine settings to maybe sync it up with what we've seen on game tape. But if you gave me my choice, it would be all game tape. I wouldn't even look at a combine. I would go with what my eyes are seeing there. And because that's what comes out in the wash for the most part. A lot of times you see kids that know how to run a shuttle, that have been trained to have no wasted footsteps, and they've been trained to get out, and their numbers will be juiced, or tuned up, and you kind of got to watch. I love still when I see a kid who looks at his coach when he gets down for the short shuttle and goes, which hand should I put down? Well, which foot do I go with first, coach? Like, I've never done this before. And then you see him run like a 4.4, and you're like, that kid could have ran a 4.1 if he knew what he was doing. And you're like, there's how you make money in this business. You take these prospects that don't know how to tune themselves up or didn't have the resources to pay for a trainer to tune them up. And like you said, I could answer these questions for 2 hours, but there's a couple of examples of why I'm going to go with what I see on the field. Game speed.
And just to piggyback on that, we go through this every year as fans of the NFL, where the combine happens, some guys go Mike Mamula on you. You know what I mean? I don't know if you guys remember who Mike Mamula is. That's worth a Google search. Mamula.
Defensive end from Boston College.
Right. Who like I had never heard of, and I think the Eagles picked him like 7th overall. This just in, he's not in the Hall of Fame. But that's really an interesting one. All right, Mark, finish with this. And this is kind of for a Gem City nod here to my people. Spider Sillery, are there any players in Dayton right now good enough for an OSU scholarship offer?
There may be a couple at Trotwood. I'm looking at the list of players I just saw this week. Trotwood.
This will be, Mark, another chance for you to trumpet the freshman you have seen to let everyone know about that may be from Huber Heights.
Thanks for leading me in that direction. I want to give Trotwood their props. They have an offensive tackle there that is growing it. Jameel Atkins, he might be 6'8" now, and he had a basketball upper body for a while, and the arms are getting beefier and still work to do, but he's an NFL upside guy after 3 years. I just don't know if Ohio State takes those developmental prospects. He could be at Eastern Kentucky and develop there, but I know he has Big Ten offers, but he's that type of player.
I've seen him in person. He was at one of the All-Star games my younger son was at. He is legitimately 6'7", 6'8", and he's a big boy. I have had the chance to be in a lot of NFL locker rooms in my time, and that's what they look like when they're 16, 17, 18 years old. I almost like the fact that he's not filled out, and he's kind of got like that clay aspect you talked about, the shuttle running.
It really is. It's such a raw piece of clay, and for Ohio State, they get finished products. They get guys that are kind of dialed in already, and they don't have to take a leap of faith. But these are the kids that go other places, and then on draft day, you're like, where was he from? And who sat there and worked with him for 3 years before he ever got on the field? And I think the Bengals just took a guy that only played 8 games in college in the first round.
Marius Mims out of Georgia, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, so what could that kid have possibly done in high school if he couldn't have got on the field till, a certain point? And there's these stories evolve. Let's go straight to Huber Heights, Wayne and Jameer Brown. Wow.
Class.
Yeah. 2027. He was a freshman. Saw him against St. Vincent St. Mary when none of their other receivers got injured that game. He stepped in, returned a kickoff for a touchdown, took a bubble screen, 60, 70 yards. I was going to bet my life in Vegas he was a senior, and he was a big-time senior that I didn't know about, only a freshman. Marcus Freeman jumped on him first with the Notre Dame offer, but I can assure you that if I was sliding chips to the middle on an Ohio State offer, he'd be in my crystal balls for an offer. Like he really – I mean – I think my comment was on the podcast the other day that the coach said he doesn't need to work out anymore. Like, don't risk him getting hurt, rolling an ankle. He's the truth. Big time prospect there. There are a couple more in Dayton. Springfield has a very nice looking crop of guys. Yeah, they had a lot of seniors and they graduated a lot, but they have some pass rushing, defensive, and they had an offensive tackle. And I wish I had his name in front of me, but he played tackle at like 6'6", 200 pounds. And as an offensive tackle, I was like, that's not what you want, an offensive tackle. He put his hand in the dirt at defensive end, and it was like a whole new world opened up for the kid. Like he's one of those bodies like a Cedric Works, that type of thing. And we saw Northmont work out and those type of guys, the long bodies of Cedric Works. I saw a question about him earlier. I don't know if he'll be an Ohio State offer. It's going to be close, but he's got some work to do, and he's got a national board to conquer before they would come to him.
The Dayton area doing what it does best, producing talent, handsome people, and just worldly types. Just like these two guys, we could probably go all day with this stuff, but we're going to cut it off here. We'll be back on Tuesday. Don't forget, the Dean will be locked in all weekend. Got some very, very interesting visitors. We are battling Michigan for a safety, so always good to beat them when we can. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Have a good one, Bucknutters.